All right, guys, welcome back to the Couch Scouts. I'm Sean here with Jimmy and former Pro Bowl linebacker from the Seattle Seahawks, Lofa Tatupu. Wait, did I pronounce that right? Lofa Tatupu?
Lofa Tatupu. You got it, man. You're probably one
Got
of the few that pronounced it right the first time.
I gotta say, it's one of my favorite nouns to pronounce. Like Nnamdi Asomugha, I love pronouncing that name. Ozigbo. There's a few in the NFL that have like just.
You want to know
one
how
name.
I pronounced Nnamdi's name back on Madden when he used to play Madden?
How?
Nnamdi Asomugha.
I mean, it's pretty much how it's spelled, right?
I pronounced it exactly how it's spelled. Double N and everything.
Well, I used to wear his jersey in high school, like like they had like football Fridays. No one knew even who he was because, first of all, we live in New York, so no one cared about the Oakland Raiders. And then everyone's like, well, "How do you even say that? Like, is that even a real word?" It's
Nnamdi was a beast, man. Yeah.
Love Nnamdi. Lofa, I was reading in high school I was reading in your high school days, you played quarterback linebacker. My first thought was like, what a wild combination. Like you hear like running back, safety, wide receiver, defensive line even. I've never heard someone play quarterback linebacker. And I thought that's like the media's perfect perception of quarterbacks today, right? Like Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. Meanwhile, they never on the field, but you were actually on the field playing the opposing quarterback in high school.
Yeah, I never understood that, what you're talking about when it's like, oh, this quarterback versus this quarterback, because they don't face each other. They face the defense. But yeah, no, it was a trip for, I guess, most opponents to see me line up at quarterback and then turn around and be the middle linebacker, the starting middle linebacker. But I was much better at linebacker, but it was weird because I didn't get really recruited much at all leaving high school. In fact, I had 4 total offers, 3 of which were to play quarterback. Over on the East Coast, UConn, Rutgers, and Temple were recruiting me to play quarterback. And I was like, man, when I talked to those staff, I was like, I don't see any 5'11" quarterbacks in the NFL. And but I see a shitload of 5'11" linebackers. So, with Dat Wynn, Dexter Coakley, Sam Mills, London Fletcher, all the guys I looked up to, Al Wilson, I go, I'm going to take my chances playing linebacker. And so I went to 1AA, Division 1AA, University of Maine to play linebacker.
That's awesome. Meanwhile, today, now there's like a ton of quarterbacks that are shorter, or at least of the variety. Even look at the Seahawks quarterback. Was Russ 6 feet tall?
Ooh,
I feel like he's not.
Russ like 5'10" and a half, 5'11". But the read options out, these days. And so, guys like him, Kyler Murray, they can get it done, through the air or on the ground. And I really wish that was the style of offense we had. We were just straight up, run the ball, and we threw it maybe 10 times a game. We relied on defense.
You were like the Broncos when we had Tebow.
Pretty much. I could throw. Hey, no disrespect to my man Tim Tebow, big fan of his. I could throw it a little better than Tebow though.
I was gonna ask if they had to line you out for a little trick play, if you could still throw it.
Oh yeah, man. I got arm strength and accuracy. It's hard to see when you're 5'11" though. I don't know how Russ does it.
I was thinking, what quarterbacks in the NFL today do you think could get away with playing both quarterback and linebacker? Like Josh Allen, maybe Cam Newton.
Josh Allen, yeah.
I was thinking, listen, Jameis, he has a ton of practice trying to tackle those defenders every time he throws an interception.
That's wrong.
Yeah, no, Josh Allen would be a good one. Cam, dude, I didn't realize how big Cam was until when I was coaching with the Hawks in 15 and 16. We went to play Carolina. It seemed like we played them every year. And in warm-ups, looking over, it looked like a defensive end. I mean, 6'6", got to be 255, 260, and he could fly. It's incredible, the athletes that are in the NFL today.
So we met each other, I believe, when we did our little series where it was named an underappreciated linebacker, I think. And I think quite a few people tagged you on our post. And it was actually pretty cool because I told Sean, I was like, hey, Lofa just followed us. And he said that you were actually like one of his favorite players to watch growing up.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. I like those segments that you guys do, because it's, there's a lot of guys that aren't, remembered or aren't given the shine that they deserve. Like I think I tagged Zach Thomas, who should be in the Hall of Fame, and
should be for sure.
Carlos Dansby, who
Yeah.
Dude, I love watching the guys, and I still do, that could do it all. They had no weakness in their game. And if you look at, my man Carlos's numbers, they're up there. They surpass a lot of Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I loved watching Carlos. He actually dropped us a follow from that too. So it's really cool to have former players
Right on, man.
show some love and stick around. And we love it too because it brings me back like memory lane, like seeing all those names. And I remember doing the DB ones because I've always been like obsessed with DBs. And it was Pat Surtain Sr. It
Mm,
was um, who were some other good ones? Madison, his teammate Madison.
yep.
Roy Williams, the old Dallas safety, I loved him.
Yeah.
Guys like that, I love going back those names. People that I grew up with, like playing on Madden, doing my fantasy drafts, picking everyone. So
Yeah. No,
it's always fun to see those names.
yeah, that's a dope segment. And yeah, it does. It takes you back, because like when I do, pods or interviews, they ask me who my favorite player was. Well, when I was growing up, my dad he was a running back. And so I always thought I was going to be a running back until I found out I was better at hitting people than I was at running the ball. And so I started watching a lot of running backs when I was a kid, though. And my favorite of all time, Thurman Thomas from the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
And so the one game I always got to go to was when the Patriots played Buffalo. I went to that like every year when I was a kid.
What is it more fun doing? Hitting people or, getting all the yards, being the running back, being the receiver, the quarterback? What do you think's more fun?
You know, for me, I loved playing defense. I played offense because I had to, but I think I fell in love with the actual, physical aspect of the game and seeing, how far you're willing to go, pushing those boundaries of pain and mental toughness. And so that's what I fell in love with. I was a linebacker from the beginning. I just didn't know it.
So who would you say, like right now, going back to the underappreciated things, who are some of your favorite linebackers or defenders in general right now that you don't really think get a lot of recognition that should?
I think, man, I'm drawing a blank even on his name. Xavier Howard, the corner from
Miami. Yep.
Yeah, if you want to talk DBs, we could start there. Man, I mean, the guy, he's averaging like 5 or 6 interceptions. I think he led the league twice already in his first like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Dolphins have been playing with the lead his entire, career. They haven't had a number one offense, that, he's got to reap the benefits of seeing a lot of pass attempts his way. So that's something that really stands out. Is it Jackson from New England? I don't even think he was.
J.C. Jackson. Yep.
Yeah, I don't even think he was drafted. I think in his first 3 years he has like 17 interceptions. It's like I'm a big numbers guy, like stats. Like tackles are cool and all, but you got to affect the game more than just that way as a linebacker. So interceptions, sacks, forced fumbles. You got to do it all. That's what I love watching guys that could do it all. And in my generations, like I was saying, guys, I really respected Carlos Dansby, Daryl Smith from the Jaguars. He played all 3 positions, Mike, Sam, Will. I thought he was a Mike his whole career, but they just used him everywhere in Jacksonville. When he went to Baltimore, I think he had like a Pro Bowl or 2, and he could have been an 8-10-time Pro Bowler if they left him at Mike his whole career. Other guys that are underrated, I don't know. My man KJ Wright. I mean, I don't know how many more.
Yeah, KJ.
I don't know how many more interceptions and sacks he needs to put up. His last 2 years have been his most productive. Year 9 and 10 have been the most productive. And there's talks like, can we get him signed back? I mean, I know a lot of our D coordinators or coaches in the past are D coordinators elsewhere, and they know the value that he brings in. I wouldn't be surprised with some of them getting head coaching jobs like Robert Saleh in New York if they don't pay KJ to be one of those core guys, just to teach, the team, like, hey, this is how we got it done in Seattle. And, this is the kind of things like put in that extra film work, getting there at 5 a.m. and staying until 5 p.m. Like that's a normal work day for KJ and the guys. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him, get paid to go somewhere and start a culture there.
Yeah, I can see that. The thing with KJ too is you're totally right. Like we've been doing these series the last few days where we look at draft classes and make a team from each draft class. And I listed KJ as the linebacker on one of the teams, and people were acting like he was the weak spot. They were like, KJ Wright, really? I'm like, come on, man.
Well, and part of it's because Bobby gets all the shine. And I
Yeah.
mean, rightfully so. Bobby's the best middle linebacker. I know Leonard from the Colts has put up some ridiculous numbers, and I mean, he's well on his way to be in that conversation if he's not already. And I mean, we can't dismiss what Devin White just did in his second year: 140 tackles, 9 sacks. Like, I mean, that's incredible for a stand-up middle linebacker. But it's kind of like when me and Julian Peterson were getting so much credit and going to Pro Bowl, my man Leroy Hill got left out, and sometimes he had a better year. And so it's unfortunate, but it's just the way it goes sometimes.
It's kind of like J.C. Jackson playing across from Stephon Gilmore. So.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
We were talking to Aqib Talib a couple episodes ago about how the league has kind of changed from more offensive, right? Like all the rules are almost against the defense now. Like compared to when you play, how do you think linebackers change now? Like, is there any differences, or is it still remain the same?
Well, shit, you can't hit anybody anymore.
I mean, that's for one.
I mean, no. First and foremost, when a guy has to worry about where that middle linebacker or where the hits are coming from, that their mind starts thinking elsewhere than making the reception or finding the hole, and reading it true to form, and not just like, okay, well, shit, if I go in there, I got to face Bobby. Maybe I'll just, I know that's the right route because it's a one-on-one, but maybe I'll take it outside where I face 2 guys and try my luck there. But like I said, that one, I think in 2000, it's also the consistency of the calls, because when they change a rule, they don't, like the first one was the instant replay, and how many times it was like, oh, it's got to be irrefutable evidence. And like most of the times it's common sense stuff we're talking. And they were just like, well, we called it on the field like that, so we can't reverse it. And then, there's so many that I could bring, like Calvin Johnson,
the drop of the ball. Yeah.
I mean, he had like 4 feet down. Like, what are we talking about? And this is one of the most sure-handed receivers we've ever seen. I could understand if it was like a rookie and, he's not going to get that call. But it's Calvin Johnson, man. So, and then illegal contact, I think that came out in 2007. And it was like receivers and tight ends were just pushing off and getting away with it. But if we jammed like we do inside 5 yards, all of a sudden they were throwing flags left and right. So the way the game's changed, man, it's hard to play as a defender, and I'm not even being biased. It's like, that's why we're seeing all these 400-yard passing games. That's what we're seeing. Everybody wants to see touchdowns. Let's get serious. Only football guys love defense.
Well, offense puts asses in seats. That's the whole point. That's what they notice. They're like, oh, more points, more people watch. I mean, that's just the reality.
Yeah, it is. But there's something special about seeing, that like 0-1 Ravens defense or the Bucks and or even the Hawks. There's something special about seeing like a suffocating, just dominating defense that is just laying people out.
Yeah, even the Bucks this past year, they weren't dominant until the playoffs, really. And even in the playoffs, like against Washington, they struggled against their Taylor Heinicke, and then Aaron Rodgers had a good game.
Hey, don't knock Heinicke. I'm a believer. Ever since he left Old Dominion, I've been saying if this kid could just get a chance, he's a competitor. And at that position, quarterback, you need the ultimate competitor that, doesn't matter how many times he gets knocked down or what. And I'm excited. Now, I know Washington, they just signed him to a 2-year deal, but I guarantee you they're probably just going to go draft a first rounder, and just put him in front. But, it's I'm not saying he's Russ Wilson. Russ came in, and Russ had an opportunity to win over the team. And by seeing some of the comments from Chase Young and the Washington team, they rallied around him. And
Chase Young loved him for sure.
Yeah, they were within a possession of beating the defending or the Super Bowl champs.
When he made the one play where he scrambled, right? Like he got closed in on, he scrambled out and got a touch. I was like, no, he's legit. I was like, they got to give him a chance. Like at the very least, they have to give him a shot next year.
Yeah, especially with that defense, you really just need a competitive guy who focuses on moving the chains, at least getting field goals, because you can win with field goals with that defense, and just not turning the ball over. And I mean, I'm not saying a game manager. He's still a baller. He put up a ridiculous amount of yards winning the Walter Payton and one AA. So I have confidence that he can make plays with his arm. But yeah, just don't turn the ball over, and you'll go to the playoffs with that team for the next couple of years.
Mm.
I mean, even worst possible case scenario, and they draft a guy and he becomes a stud or whatever. Backup QBs are important, and like even if he does stay there, he sticks around. I mean, he could win games for you if he has to fill in for sure. So
absolutely, yeah.
You could always end up with like the Colt McCoy career too, right? Highest paid backup in the league. Nothing wrong with that, right?
When we played the Giants, I was like, "Who is that quarterback?" And they're like, "Yo, Colt McCoy, first start in like 5 years, first win in like 7." I was like, "Wow!" I didn't even know Colt was still in there.
Yeah, that man's lasted this long. He's still going.
Unbelievable.
Who is it? It's him and Chase Daniel, I believe. I think Chase Daniels is the other one.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Wow.
I was telling Jimmy back when you had followed us, I went and I was looking up, a lot of your stats. Like I said, you're one of my favorite players growing up. I couldn't believe you only played 6 years in the NFL. Like I didn't realize it. It felt like you played so long. And then I didn't realize you had torn your pec twice, right? It was with Seattle in like 2009. And then when you went signed with the Falcons, you tore it. And they like right after you signed the deal, you tore it and they had to release you. Like, yeah. I don't know why I felt like you played so long. You went to the Super Bowl your rookie season. It just felt like it's so much longer of a career.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you do it right, people remember. So hopefully, I wasn't there for a long time. I was there for a good time. But it's just, it's really the way it was, man. I played through a lot of concussions early on in my career, and I feel like, that led to more and more disconnect between the mind and body. And I mean, over the span of the career, I probably had in the 6 years, and it was really only 5 years, 5 games, because I missed 11 or 12 games in 2009 when I tore my pec the first time. Just 10 surgeries, 15 concussions. I mean, it was a pretty rough road. And I mean, that's why I'm so adamant about, zone in CBD and what I do now, is because it's repaired and put me back together. Like we don't have enough time for me to tell you all the things that it's done for me. But it's real, fellas. It's not snake oil. It's not, placebo. And it's changing a lot of lives out there.
I saw you say in a TMZ interview 2 years ago that you would make a comeback if they legalized it in the NFL. So, now I'm wondering, are you going to make a return? And if so, my Raiders really need a linebacker.
There he goes again.
I mean, I can make the comeback, but I mean, at 38, I don't know how many teams, are willing to put out a contract for a 38-year-old.
Tom Brady's going. London Fletcher played till he's 40. I mean, there's got to be.
London Fletcher's still playing somewhere.
London Fletcher is a beast. First of all, a guy like I think he never missed a start in his career.
No, he's like the true Iron Man. Like it's crazy.
Oh yeah, of football. Yeah, exactly. He's the Cal Ripken of football. I guarantee you, if you give London maybe a month to prepare, he could go back out there and play a full season. But I would love to go back, especially after seeing Tom win his 7th. I can't believe he just made his 7th. Like,
it's unreal,
unbelievable. So yeah, you get me a contract, I'll go start training and I'll do it.
I got John Gruden on speed dial. I'll go work it out. We'll figure it out.
So back to your playing days, I don't think people realize especially how productive the first 3 years were, where you had over 300 tackles and I believe 8 interceptions over the first 3 years. Like, I'd like to go back and compare like your first 3 years to some of these other guys' first 3 years, just number wise. So I don't think people realize how crazy it was.
It was good. That's what I always modeled my game after the guys that could make a difference, every game. Whether it's forcing a fumble, recovering one, sacks, pressures, interceptions, it's more than just tackles to me, because I mean, I know a lot of people get wrapped up in, oh, well, he's got 150 tackles. I mean, that's fine, but I mean, where were the majority of them coming from? Were they 10 yards downfield, or were they within 3 or 4 yards of the line of scrimmage? right? And so that's the difference when I'm watching a guy and how much I respect their game is like, are they forcing the issue? When they read it, do they react? And are they willing to take on the lineman? Because a lot of them, they're not. They're just going to hang out until the ball carrier pops out of a gap or, they find the ball. And that's fine. That's just some guy's mentality. Mine was smash mouth, which is probably why I only lasted 5 years and 5 games. But again, I wouldn't be true to myself if I played any other way. And, like I said, it was fun. I wish it was a little longer, but I mean, I did it my way.
Well, hey, people love the offense, but you remember the smash mouth guys. I remember watching Bob Sanders, LaRon Landry, like all those guys. So.
Well, and I mean, even like my man Cam Chancellor. I mean,
Yeah.
You say you love DB play. It's really not sustainable to play the way we play. And I'm not saying I'm as good as any of those guys. I think those guys are all better than me, way better than me. I'm saying just we played the same style or same brand of ball. And what I mean is like it was the fear, the pure making the opponent fear you. Going downhill, doesn't matter. I mean, I lost a ton of the battles, but, going back and getting back up and going at it, I could see people, guys, I could just see them wear down in their facial expression, like, God damn, here comes that guy again. Like, What's wrong with this guy? And so, I mean, that's the part that gets really fun is when, you're just sheer will and determination wears down your opponent over time.
I was going to ask you to build like a Mount Rushmore of Seattle Seahawks, but instead I almost want a Mount Rushmore of smash mouth football players, like guys that just either didn't want to play against or like you knew you're going to get rocked by them every time they, came near you.
Oh, man. I got to put my man Cam up there.
Okay.
Cam's got to go up there, man. I mean, just
smash mouth for sure.
Oh, man, just one of the most violent, vicious players that I've ever seen, and I got to play with him his rookie year. Him and Earl came in 2010 and 2010. It was incredible, just getting to take the field with those guys. I mean, Earl could go up there too. I mean, shit, the whole Legion of Boom could go up there.
Chairman.
Oh, they were nasty. Yeah, they were just straight up nasty. So, but I'm trying to think of just guys that I mean, you
Ray
knew
Lewis.
a big hit was coming. Ray could be up there for sure.
Linebacker maybe.
Bry was one that could do anything. He could have played safety. He could have played D-end because he was 6'6", 255. I mean, he could run. But and he did. He had some great hits. But his guy Lance Briggs now might have been more of the smash mouth. Lance Briggs would destroy any blocker, destroy any fullback. I mean, he brought the noise every time he went downhill. So Lance, I'm gonna put Lance up there. I love watching Lance play. So yeah, I'll put Ray, Cam, Lance, one more to round it out. I don't know who you guys got. I'm trying to think about it.
I'm a little biased here. I was gonna say you can maybe throw like a Steve Atwater up there.
Go Atwater. I knew you were gonna go there.
Yeah.
Because he was. I mean, he was straight up nasty.
John Lynch. Like I said, I'm a Bob Sanders guy. I like Bob Sanders.
Johnny Lynch is awesome. I mean, what about the Hitman, James Harrison?
James Harrison.
I mean,
I thought he might have killed like 2 people in the football field.
Yeah. When I talk about like guys that just there is no quit in them, like, those are the guys that I look up to. Doesn't matter, what the stats were, completely. It's just like, are they bringing it every day?
He got more tackles in the game, and you're just like, where's James Harrison? Like,
oh yeah. And I mean, because we got great safety, like you said, Bob, my boy Troy Polomalu. I mean, those are some headhunters. Jamal Adams, man, he plays a brand of ball that is just relentless. That's the shit I love, man. Like flying around, he looks like a blur. And we got a bunch of 4-4 guys on that field here in Seattle, but he looks like he's playing at a different speed. So, but okay, so we got Ray, Cam, Lance, and And yeah, I'll go Hitman Harrison, man. He brings it every time.
Could
I mean,
even let's go
that's
ahead.
a club right there.
You could even put, he doesn't even play defense, but Marshawn Lynch. I mean, who the hell will say it him?
Oh,
That's a good point. I
Who's
went
hitting other people.
I mean, there's offensive linemen like Larry Allen. Man, it was a nightmare facing that guy. I thought he broke my ribs one time. That's how hard he punched.
Oh,
But yeah, just a beast. So I mean, you're right. You could put Beast Mode could definitely go up there. Am I leaving anybody off?
there's so many. I mean, the list is long. It's a long list of guys who are big hitters, especially in the early 2000s.
These days, you know who I love watching? Fucking not big at all, but I mean, just destroys people. Denzel Perryman.
Oh,
He's in the West, the AFC West. Yeah, I mean, you ever get a chance, go back and watch his highlight film from college. I mean, it was just brutal. It was I got to watch his film when he was leaving Miami. It was one of the most fun films I've ever watched. Like every game, someone was just getting knocked out.
Yeah, we don't like to be familiar with those guys. We see them enough. So
I would go ahead.
real
Jimmy.
quick, just gonna shoot here. Just something I thought of from when Talib was talking. We had a whole not on our show, but he had a whole debate: Legion of Boom versus the Broncos no-fly zone.
Eesh.
I know who you got. You know who I got.
Make your case for your guys then.
Okay, so you had the better safeties for sure. I'll give you the safeties. D. Stu and T.J. Ward. They're not Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. I got that. But I think we got the corners. I think we got three better corners. You got Sherman. I'll give you Sherman. We had Talib. We had Chris Harris, and we had Roby, who was also a first rounder.
Ooh.
And you guys played that more of a drop zone scheme. Not taking anything away. That's what you guys do. That's your thing. Denver played man. A little bit tougher. You got to stay on your man a little longer. They had a pass rush which helped them, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think when you look at the personnel, we got more corners. You got the safeties. I think we played a little bit tougher of a scheme than the Legion of Boom did.
I'll give you that. I mean, Seattle had some pass rush too. With Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Clemens. So I'd say it's not a wash. I mean, you guys had Von Miller, a couple other guys in there, right? But it's tough. I know because you guys do play man, and we're staying zone, and we even staying sides with the corners. But when you think about how deep that whole secondary was, because we also had Maxey was there. So Browner was the starter. Maxey was coming in, and then at safety, Jerron Johnson. That was a squad. Just if someone went down, we would have been fine. I don't know if you guys would have been fine for maybe through one on the corner, but
maybe one.
Yeah, but again, it's that's why they call it a debate. I mean, what did Keith say? I know what he said, but
he took the no-fly zone, and Roby made the comment that we played man, they play zone, and that was his thing. But if we're being completely honest, if it wasn't for the Legion of Boom kicking our ass in that Super Bowl, there would be no-fly zone, because we went out, we signed Talib, we signed DeMarcus Ware, we signed T.J. Ward, we signed Darian Stewart.
Oh yeah.
Well, you also go look at the argument like this: the Seahawks literally shut down the best offense of all time with that Broncos.
I call that Super Bowl sabotage from play one. We saw Peyton's snap go.
Yeah,
through the next area code.
That's really the defending argument right there. Is man, you had them at the time the most prolific offense. They had smashed a bunch of records, held them to 8 points. It's tough to combat that.
Thanks. That was the first Super Bowl that I got to watch with my own eyes because I was 5 when they played in '98.
Oh, please.
I'm all super excited. First Super Bowl I get to watch. At least I got to see Bruno Mars at halftime. And then, what do you know? Right out of halftime, we have Matt Prater can kick it out of the stadium. No, let's pooch kick it to Percy Harvin. Let him house it.
What a time.
That guy was a beast.
A little salty, a little bit.
Last thing I have for you here. What is with USC being linebacker U? I swear to God. I mean, Brian Cushing, Ray Magaluga, Clay Matthews, yourself. Like, I mean, they were almost all at the same time. Keith Rivers. Like, it literally was just linebacker U. Every year you got a stud linebacker coming out of USC. I mean, what was it? Is it something in the water? Is the coaching staff? What was going on there?
No, you hit it right there. Coaching staff. They had a guy by the name of Ken Norton Jr. He was the linebacker coach, and he was responsible for the recruiting process of many of those guys. Cush, Clay. No, Clay was there. I played a year with Clay, but then the next year, Cush, Ray Malaluga, Kaluka Mayava, I'm trying to think. Keith Rivers was there too already. I mean, he got the coveted 55, which was given out to the best player like Willie Mack, Junior Seau, all the greats. Wore it. My man Ken Norton went out and recruited all those guys, and so every now and then you're going to see a school have a run on linebackers or position specific. I know, like Penn State, they had a run when they had Bowman, Posluszny, Connor. They had a run on linebackers too, and it's got to be whoever's recruiting them and developing that talent. And I mean, right now we're looking at LSU. I mean, they put out Quan Alexander, Deion Jones, Devin White, Pat Queen. So I mean, there's trends there for a lot of different schools. And LSU, they also put out a lot of corners in their day too. And then Bama just puts out everything.
Yeah. What doesn't Bama put out?
Yeah. So, but when I look back at our time there, it was we were getting the best of the best, and then the way they were able to develop them and teach them how to be pros. That's why a lot of us had so much success going right to the league early, like making a Pro Bowl in year one. It was because not only was I on a good team, but it was knowing what to expect and being ready for the NFL.
Quick little shout out to one of the guys you named there, Navarro Bowman. That's another one of those guys doesn't get the credit they probably should because he gets credit, but
he got hurt. Yeah,
he played next to Patrick Willis, so Patrick Willis always got.
Yeah, got a lot of love. And if you really in terms of like their game, Bowman had a more well-rounded game. He was starting to really come on. I mean, Pat Willis. I mean, I thought he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Probably go in next year, but I thought he deserved to go in first ballot.
Yeah.
But yeah, now you're jogging my memory. So Bowman, and then you guys remember David Harris?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Him, Bart Scott, for the right reason. Bart Scott was an absolute savage. But it's like Bart didn't get the credit when he was over there by Ray. Yeah, Bart didn't get the credit he deserved when he was over there by Ray because he had some of the most productive years I ever seen. He went over to New York and he got a lot of the love, rightfully so. I mean, he was the leader there with Dave. But Dave could do it all, man. And if you put up, like you're saying, you put up the numbers early on, I guarantee you Dave's first few years were up there with everybody. And he's a guy, out of Michigan. I remember watching him play, and I was just like, yo, who is this dude? Just knocking people out, making picks, making sacks. So that's another one underrated. And then we'll end the show with the most underrated that finally just won a Super Bowl. Levante David.
Yes, Levante David is so underrated. I got so much hate from my top 10 players in the Super Bowl. I had him fourth. I was like, how do you guys not recognize how great this guy is?
I think he had 100+ tackles and like 5 picks, 5 sacks, which has only been done by like Urlacher and I think maybe one other person in a season. And he didn't even get a Pro Bowl vote. Like he didn't. Like it's insane. And
he's so taken for granted. It's crazy.
Look, did you see what he did in the Super Bowl? He had to go man to man with Kelsey, and I mean he might have, over the top or whatever, which makes it a little easier. But Nick, I've never seen anybody stay with Kelsey like that. I mean Kelsey's the best in the game. He's a mismatch for damn near everyone. But Levante David, a guy that no one ever gives respect to, or doesn't get the credit he deserves, just went in there and he hemmed him up a couple times.
Yeah. For the last 2 years, everybody was talking about obviously Bobby Wagner and then Darius Leonard coming onto the scene. And I'm like, you guys are forgetting about Levante David. just because he doesn't get the media recognition. But
Yeah.
we
And
do the
then,
little hidden player things where you do the stats and you look over and you see the
oh,
stats. And
those are
it'd be
awesome.
Levante David, and everyone would be like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize he was that good."
Right. And then, because I mean, they don't play as many nationally televised games, and also they weren't doing a ton of winning, and that matters to an
It
extent.
plays into
It does.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he was always fun to watch. Trying to think, is there anybody else I'm leaving out that I just loved watching? Pittsburgh, man, those backers were good back in my day. I liked watching.
Polomalu, I loved. I know he's safety, but
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I played with Troy at SC. I mean, the
Yeah.
stuff they have stuff. I hope they didn't get rid of it on a film vault. He made an interception one time. He was covering the tight end. He was just flat-footed. Tight end ran 10 yards at him and ran out. Troy didn't even move a muscle until he broke out, and he waited to see if Carson Palmer was going to throw the ball. Carson's got a cannon for an eye. So Carson's like, oh, yeah, I got this. Just rifled it. Troy takes 3 steps and, tips the ball. Just straight out tips. And the ball falls, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to go to the ground. He does a single leg RDL, his other leg's in the air, catches the ball with his fingertips at, before an inch before the ground. And then I was like, okay, he's going to tear his fucking hamstring. He stands straight back up and sprints for 50 yards for a touchdown. And we were all like, what the hell was that? And I mean, so like I said, there's film of, Troy, doing things in practice that I hope is not lost, because I mean, if you put that on YouTube, it'll get fucking 10 million hits.
Some of that stuff you have to see to believe.
I couldn't believe it.
You couldn't believe, and you were there.
Yeah, I watched it happen. How fast he got in those 3 steps. Probably covered 5 yards in just one of the steps. He tipped the ball because he was going to go for the pick. He tipped it, and the ball just somehow naturally slowly went to the ground. But we were all like, okay, nice breakup. And then just took one more step, picked it up, and went to the house. And we were just like, holy shit.
Mo was insane with him. He could.
But those backers that he played with, Farrier and Foote, those guys, James Farrier,
yep.
He could do it all. Rush the passer, interceptions, take on blocks. They were fun to watch. Him and Foote.
Troy he was able to time the snaps way too well. The amount of times he jumped right over, that was the most absurd thing, how he timed those so perfectly.
Oh, it's insane. And then, running down the line, most when they run away and it's not a play action or a boot. Most guys, they just slowly jog over the top just to be a safety valve, right? Make sure if this breaks. Well, him, Bob Sanders used to do it. Jamal Adams, I don't know, it's high praise. He might be the best I've ever seen it do it. The one against the Rams where he kept Henderson, and Henderson's a fast running back. I mean, he's got home run speed. He came around the edge, stopped him at the 1 yard line, which is when we got the goal line stand to watch, which was 4 straight plays that were amazing. But that was, Jamal Adams is, like I said, playing on another level right now.
Well, do you have anything, Jimmy? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say before we let him go, see if there's anything you wanted to plug, his company, his podcast, whatever you want people to check out, man. Let them know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm on Instagram, Lofa_Tatupu. I'm on Twitter, but I don't even really check it, so don't bother going there. But Seahawks podcast on the Believe Sports Network. That's BLEAV Sports. So anywhere you get your audio, that's where you can find us. And zoneincbd.com, like I said, you hear a lot of people advocating on behalf of it because it really is. It's changing lives. It's the future of health and wellness, and the NFL is even looking more into it. Finally, thank God, to help. They're just going to put out a better product, meaning the players, a healthier, player, and it's going to be exciting to see guys play longer and better when they're zoned in.
I like that. Lofa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and Gruden will be in touch soon.
Yeah, tell me. I appreciate it, man. Y'all stay blessed.
Hey, you too, man. I appreciate you.